Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. What was the most lucrative reason someone at your place of employment was let go? Part 2. I had to let someone go who we hired as a casual through a temp agency. When I was driving to work, I almost picked her up with her young child because she crossed the road in front of me at a roundabout where there was no pedestrian crossing. She didn't even look at me or notice when I slammed on my brakes to stop. After that, I told her to be more careful when we talked about it. She had no idea at all. Soon after, she came in even though she wasn't scheduled to work. I let her work for a few hours because she was there and we could use her. Plus, I felt bad that she came in just to leave. I told her very clearly not to come in again unless we called her or the agency told her to. She came in again the next day and I told her that we would call her if we needed her, so please don't come back unless asked. It was also a public holiday, so she shouldn't have been there in the first place, but the rest of us employees had to work because we didn't get that day off. She came back again, but this time I wasn't giving her anything. I told her to go home because she wasn't scheduled to work and we weren't going to pay her for the hours she worked on the pub holiday when we told her not to. She asked when she should come in next, and I told her that, as far as we knew, we won't need any more help in the near future because we're fully staffed and don't need the help of casual staff. I then had to explain to her, an adult woman, what it meant to be a casual staff member and that shifts would be irregular and only when extra help was needed. I even told her to check in with the agency because if she wanted more shifts, they could assign her to other workplaces. I told her that we wouldn't need her here again and that she shouldn't come back to work. Then we called the agency and told them what was going on and that we didn't want her at our facility anymore. Most of the time, talking to her was like talking to a wall. Nothing we said stuck. To be clear, we still needed casuals to cover absences, but she was fired as one because she kept doing these stupid things over and over again. Used to work somewhere that hired new people all the time. Here are some people I saw get fired. 1. Dumped his bin full of trash from a job site down a country lane, leaving all the information on the boxes. He then said he took them to the recycling center, but they followed him and dumped them down the same lane. He was in a tracked van and drove down the lane where they were found. 2. Rammed the forklift into the warehouse door, said he was too hot and couldn't handle things, and then began punching himself in the head. He then left and never came back. 3. Every day for 2 weeks, sat in the staff room and watched Jeremy Kyle, didn't do any work and was fired. 4. Wouldn't do any work, sat there every day eating from the breakfast van and broke his desk by driving screwdrivers through it or drilling holes in it. 5. Stole a ridiculous amount of Logitech gear from the warehouse, put it on eBay with his skate in the background and his name written on it, then said it wasn't him. Took about $40,000 worth of gear. 6. A new general manager walked in and told all the women that they weren't qualified to do their jobs. Fired right away. 7. Went to the store to buy a pumpkin and tried to carve it with a knife in the office. Then he asked the top manager, "Who are you?" It was when she asked him what he was doing. 8. One guy didn't like having a woman in his office because she was supposed to be his trainee, saying, "I don't want an effing woman in my office," and complaining about her all the time. He refused to train her. They argued a lot and she was fired. I found out later when she came to give me the keys with a big smile on her face that they paid her $20,000 not to sue the company. 9. Engineer didn't want to work for the company anymore, so he crashed his van into the back of an old lady's car, broke his laptop, and lost his phone. He was then fired. I have no idea why he didn't just leave. I was the one fired. Or more accurately, we mutually split ways because they made it clear I wasn't wanted there anymore, and when I went to talk to them about putting in my 2 weeks, they sat me down to tell me I should stop coming into the store until I figured myself out. I left that same day and didn't come back. Then what did I do that was so bad? I had an allergic reaction to some makeup that someone gave me. It was brand new, not used. Like, why would you put that on your face stuff? I started at age 17 and ended just before I turned 18. I didn't know I had any allergies at that point, so when the skin around my eyes started to swell and flake, I thought I had an eye infection or dry skin. Till it got worse. In a strange twist, my boss told me I had to cover it up with makeup and that new makeup was the only thing that would really work. I packed it on to hide the damage, but I didn't know I was making it worse. I knew that putting makeup on the area wouldn't help it, but I thought it'd be fine for a couple of hours as long as I took it off after work. Not at all. My eye would get worse every time I used it. It's true that it couldn't have been great to see. Customers never complained, though. Everyone was very nice to me. Also, when one manager was in charge, I only got complaints after the supposed customer had already left. My other manager never got any. Customers were always saying the meanest things about me to her, but my other manager only ever heard good things about how helpful and knowledgeable I was. I wasn't the best by any means. My coworkers had a lot more experience than I did, but it was a store that only sold a few things and there wasn't much difference between them. During busy times, it wasn't hard to keep track of what was in stock and how to fit in new deals and products. You can only make so many color combinations. Since I was praised one shift for being helpful and then called names from customers the next, I didn't want to keep riding that roller coaster. We had mystery shoppers at an old job who came in and gave us grades every so often. A lot of the time, at least twice a month, it happened, so one customer would use the self-checkout and the other would use a cashier. We all knew the rules. You had to look at them within 10 seconds of them coming up to you. Doesn't matter how many people were in line ahead of them, if you greet them in 11 seconds, you fail. Yes, I know it's silly and I missed a few myself. Anyway, we had a new person work the counter one morning. I was in a meeting, so he was by himself. After my meeting, I came back to find that an older customer had smashed a wine display. Awesome as H. I caught a glimpse of one of our regular mystery shoppers writing something down on her shopping list while looking at the new guy's name tag, which is never a good sign. Our secret shopper told us the next day that there was no one at the counter and she waited 1 minute and 36 seconds before leaving, even though there was a clear wine spill that was being cleaned up. The poor guy was fired right there by the store manager. He didn't even write him up. At 57 years old, he was widowed and waiting for Social Security. I told the store manager and even got in touch with corporate, but nothing was done. That was the last straw for me at that grocery store. A month later, I had a better job. Thank God there are no mystery shops here. No more mystery shoppers. Share your horrible experiences/story from living in an HOA, condominium, or with jerk neighbors, Part 2. My experiences. 1. I receive a notion of violation with a $50 fine at least once every quarter for not setting my trash can on the curb on Tuesdays. I'm a single man without a partner, girlfriend, children, or animals. In a week, I barely fill my kitchen trash can, never mind the much bigger WM can. This means that I have to call the HOA, leave a message, and wait 48 hours to call again, leave a message, wait 48 hours, call again, leave a message, letting them know that my attorney will be contacting them if they don't return my call, and then they have to call me back. After pulling the file and realizing how stupid it is, they erase the charge. This has occurred more than once. 2. I typically receive several notices regarding weeds every spring. The HOA claims that it would be too costly to include pictures in the letters, so they're never included. They don't upload to a secure website or print any. Again, after a few phone calls, if I press them, I usually get them to email me photos of the weeds. Almost every time this has occurred, the photos are of 2 or more clearly distinct properties rather than my home or property. There'll be differences in the landscaping, house color, and gravel color, among other things. 3. I hired a team from Colorado in 2011 to handle a massive plant overgrowth in my backyard. After a few days of intense rain, we had 2 weeks of beautiful sunny weather which caused the backyard to grow by 1 foot every night. My backyard turned into a jungle during this time because I was on vacation and out of town and I didn't want to deal with it. I realized that I had neglected to replace the gate's padlock after the workers left. A few days later, I came home from my long run on Saturday to discover an unfamiliar man in my backyard. I called 911, as any half-sane person would have done. The local police arrived rather quickly, and the man in the backyard appeared to be busy taking notes in a clipboard as he moved around. I waited until the cops were there before I confronted him. The man then introduced himself as an HOA representative conducting an inspection. He was told by the officers that he was actually intruding onto private land. After that, the HOA inspector got into a heated argument with the officer, claiming that the inspection was lawful and that I had multiple infractions in my backyard that needed to be fixed or I would be fined. However, I found it quite humorous to watch the officer escort the HOA representative out of my yard. I had to fax the police report to a different HOA representative in the end because they wanted to fine me roughly $300 for the cleanup crew's piles of brush in the backyard. The president of the homeowner association was a cranky old man who would write offensive messages on cars parked outside his window. These notes would be complaining that his view, which was the only house across the street, was spoiled by the parked car. It was getting ridiculous that several of my friends and family had these messages painted on their cars, but I forced myself to bite my tongue. Then, one morning when I woke up, I saw that the old man had painted his home's curb completely bright red. This infuriated me. I complained that this behavior was creating a precedent that anyone could paint their curb red at the homeowners association meeting. There wouldn't be any parking in the community if everyone followed that. People paid attention, but nothing was done. Later, I was approached by a board member who informed me that, despite the validity of my argument, nothing would be done because everyone was afraid of the president. I considered testing the HOA president by leaving my car there and watching to see if anything would happen, but I changed my mind. I bought some colored concrete paint with my best friend, and at 2 a.m, we painted the curb all over again. He repainted it 3 days later. We painted it gray once more. He restored the color to red. A few days later, I realized I was moving away and got a new job. I laughed it off and decided to move on. No one else would volunteer for the 3rd seat on my HOA board, so I did it myself. I knew right away that our president was gone crazy. She was permanently disabled but still had a lot of energy, so the 40 units in our small condo complex became her full-time job. She read the law about managing an HOA from beginning to end. She knows our CC&Rs inside and out, and I'm sure that she's the only one who has ever read them. I then realized that no one would stay with the board because she would bother them with emails all the time, reminders that were passive-aggressive, and that she couldn't let a topic go. Our new property manager is amazing. She's in charge of the day-to-day running of the building and is in charge of budgets, contracts with service providers, billing, and other things. Things were getting better and back on track, but my president didn't like it because there was less to do. However, our leader would not allow that to happen. The emails kept coming in. Small complaints got worse. In the end, I called the property manager to find out what she thought about whether our president was crazy or if this was normal for anyone who wanted to work there. What she said: "My company spends more time managing her than we do managing all of our other properties combined. She almost quit because it's too much trouble. I understand her point of view." We had an association and a management company in my previous condominium, and they were responsible for a significant amount of the exterior building work. In any case, that's what they asserted earlier. Before anyone got their hands on the financials and discovered the following, they had been operating for a period of 5 years with the same HOA president. Payments for trash pickup were 2 years behind schedule. Maintaining the landscaping was 1 year behind schedule. The payments for water and sewage were 2.5 years ago. For the past 4 years, FHA financing had been lost. 75% of the units were delinquent on their payments, with one of them, the CEO, being 5 years behind. Due to the lack of payment, letters from lenders threatening to foreclose on the entire complex were sent. In the end, it was discovered that the dues and special assessments were being deposited into a community bank account, which was then transferring 90% of the money to the representative of the management company and the president of the associations. In the course of an emergency meeting, which was attended by nearly all of the owners, they were replaced. There were only 2 votes cast in favor of maintaining their positions. Guess who? In addition, both of them are currently serving time in jail for fraud, and the association is almost totally caught up on all of their loans. If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.